Ladies and gentlemen, two girls, two boys, a phenomenon in pop music. ABBA.
Hello, Adrian here, and welcome to this, the fourth and final episode of this second season of Like a Magic Spell. We are the ABBA Song by Song podcast, in which we unlock the sheer joy of ABBA's music and share stories about them and the impact they've had on our lives as well. As I say, this is the fourth and final episode looking at ABBA, the album. So, as I mentioned last week, because there are 9 tracks on the album, we're going to be looking at 3 songs today. Thank You for the Music, I Wonder, brackets Departure, and I'm a Marionette. Before we go any further, a few thank yous for this season. I want to thank the guests, so that's Joelle, Leo, Ian and Alice. But the main thanks really go to you, the listeners, for listening and downloading and commenting and getting in touch and everything. It's very strange in a good way to know that people are downloading and listening and, you know, telling me that they enjoy it. So yeah, thank you. As I've said before, this is just me just doing this. I'm sitting in my lounge now recording this, so I really am a one-man band. So every kind of interaction, every download really does mean a hell of a lot. So thank you very much. Now, today's guest is a real, probably what you call a multi-hyphenate. She is a life coach, a writer, speaker, creator, IVF mum, podcaster, advocate. She is the amazing Alice Rose. This is a fun one. I did have to edit out quite a lot of laughter, which was just us two gooning around. But as usual, I started the podcast by asking Alice what part ABBA plays in her life.
The thing that immediately comes to mind for me is just family. Like for me, ABBA and dancing just go hand in hand, and my family have always loved music. We've got a jukebox in my mum and dad's kitchen. We do a lot of dancing when we're together, and I think that's the main thing that comes up for me when I think about ABBA. And also, and rather surprisingly, my brother-in-law, who I won't kind of go too much into who he is because he's a relatively private person, but just the most unexpected massive ABBA fan, and he just loves it. And I'm laughing just because you just wouldn't expect it. I mean, he really loves it. And I don't know how your listeners feel about Mamma Mia, the movie, and Mamma Mia, the show. I don't know if they love it or if they hate it. I don't know. But he particularly really loves it and has been multiple times to the West End to see Mamma Mia. So yeah, so when I think of ABBA, I think of dancing, I think of my family, I think of our kitchen, I think of good times. Like that's what comes up for me when I think of ABBA.
I've said on the podcast before, part of this is about unlocking the joy of ABBA for the world. And what you've just described is pretty much that, isn't it? It's that thing of when Dancing Queen comes on the jukebox at a wedding, it's like a siren call and everyone just heads for the dance floor.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what I love about it, is that it spans generations. You know, like I probably wouldn't class myself as like an ABBA super fan, but you know, their music has kind of infused itself, hasn't it, into the fabric of our culture, and whether we like it or not. And I do like it because I love dancing and I love the fact that it calls people together, and that's really special. And there's not that many artists globally that have done what they've done and that have been able to span the generations and call people together like that. And that is something really, really special. There's something kind of nostalgic about their music, isn't there? I'm sure all your guests say something similar. It just brings up that kind of feeling of nostalgia, like for a decade that I didn't live through. It's odd. I don't know how they do it, but it's some sort of psychological like button that they press.
I think that decade before you were born, when they were popular and they were huge, I think it's a case of just the sheer legacy, the sheer impact that they made. We were still feeling the shockwaves like throughout our childhood, even though we weren't there to kind of witness, them actually like on top of the pops every single week. The kind of the echoes went through the kind of 80s and 90s, and then all of a sudden in the 90s they were popular again. And so it's like, I know who they are, but now they're popular again, so let's crack on.
Yeah, totally. And now and then they've had like waves of, reinvention, I suppose, with all of the different ways that their music has been, incorporated into movies, into theatre, and that's something that I am fascinated by, just as a kind of, a creative, really, I suppose, myself, and how it's kind of trickled down. And yeah, you say like the shockwaves of their power spanning the decades and the generations. It's amazing.
So we are going to talk about three songs today. We're going to talk about Thank You for the Music, I Wonder, brackets departure. I won't be saying that all the way through, don't worry.
Please do. I enjoyed that.
Okay, if you want me to, I will. And I'm a Marionette. So these are the three songs which appear at the end of ABBA the album. The reason I've sort of grouped these together is because on the original album they form a mini musical called The Girl with the Golden Hair. So basically, this is Benny and Bjorn wanting to have a crack at musicals. So for the 1977 tour show, Benny and Bjorn wanted to do something different for their audiences, for the paying audiences. So they wrote this kind of 25-minute mini musical called The Girl with the Golden Hair. Its plot was basically 4 songs long with a narrator in between. It tells the story of a small town girl leaving home to achieve stardom as a singer, only to find herself kind of trapped by fame. It closed the original tour show back in 1977. It featured Agneta and Frida wearing identical wigs and dresses to show they're both playing the same character. Now, the 4 songs go through the different stages of this character's life. So that's the joy of singing, wondering about pursuing her goals, getting caught up in the whirlwind of fame, and finally shunning the limelight. And the first 3 of those songs are the songs we're talking about today that made it onto ABBA the album. The 4th song, the final song about shunning the limelight, was called Get on the Carousel. That was dropped for the album. And as we heard in the previous episode, parts of the melody for that song were reused in Hole in Your Soul. Now, of this mini musical, Benny said, I suspect the whole thing was probably quite weird for the audiences. They just wanted to see ABBA. And Bjorn said, I remember that someone asked us why we didn't extend it to a full-length musical. Well, I don't think the story was quite good enough for that. And I kind of agree, actually, Bjorn.
That's really interesting because, like, when I was listening to those two, I hadn't actually heard them before, and the immediate thing that came to mind was, oh, it sounds like musical theatre, and yeah, exactly the vibe I got.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, I think you've probably dipped your toe into musical theatre in the past, haven't you? So you could probably see the signs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the first song we're going to talk about is Thank You for the Music, which I think is one of those kind of epic ABBA songs. It's like a real like milestone ABBA song. It's the 7th track on ABBA the album. The album version was recorded on Thursday, the 21st of July, 1977 at the Glen Studio in Stocksund, which is about 15 minutes north of Stockholm. But an earlier version was recorded with a completely different arrangement on Thursday, the 2nd of June at the Marcus Music Studio in Stockholm. This version's a bit looser, a bit jazzier than the version we're used to. And it's earned the name the Doris Day Mix due to its kind of laid-back style. It was finally released to the world in a box set in 1994. So the album version that we know and love was released as a single, double A-side with Eagle in May 1978 in Australia, Austria, Belgium, France, the Netherlands, Germany, South Africa, and Switzerland. Its highest chart position was number 2 in South Africa. It was re-recorded into Spanish as Gracias por la música. I got an A at GCSE Spanish. So it was recorded in Spanish for ABBA's Spanish language album of the same name, Gracias por la música. It was released as a single in Spanish-speaking territories to promote the album and reached number 4 in Argentina. The English version was eventually released as a single in the UK and Ireland in late 1983, where it reached number 33 and 17, respectively. It's been covered by, okay, this is quite a long list, by a Finnish a cappella choral ensemble called Rajaton, American singer Jan Gelberman, German singer Barbara Schöneberger, Dame Vera Lynn, the Nolans, the Carpenters, a Eurodance group called Erotic, and a version appeared as a hidden track on the Mamma Mia movie soundtrack sung by Amanda Seyfried. Is it Seyfried or Seyfried? I never know how to say
Oh, I
her
never
name.
know. I think what you said first, whatever that was.
I mean, her voice on that album is just incredible. It's so wonderful. Yeah, I could talk for hours about that, but I won't. Right. It's one of 6 ABBA songs covered by Benny on his solo piano album called Piano. in 2017. He also played it to a room of ABBA fans as a surprise at the International ABBA Fan Club Day at the ABBA Museum in 2016. Now, the chorus of Thank You for the Music was used in the Thank ABBA for the Music medley, sung by a cavalcade of stars, my expression, at the Brit Awards on Tuesday, the 16th of February, 1999. Artists who sung on it include, okay, this is a veritable who's that of 90s pop stardom. Steps, Bewitched, Cleopatra, coming at you, Tina Cousins, and Billy Piper, Swindon's very own Billy Piper.
Oh my God, I feel like I just traveled back in time.
Now, it was released, the medley was released as a single in 9 countries, including the UK, where it reached number 4 in the charts. Later that year, the medley appeared on an album of covers called ABBA Mania, which even had its own promo TV show on ITV on Saturday, the 6th of November, 1999. And I'm holding up, for the purposes of the Zoom, I'm holding up a copy of ABBA Mania, which I bought off eBay this week.
Amazing.
If I could just read a few of these tracks. So we've got Madness doing Money, Money, Money. Steps, Lay All Your Love on Me. Stephen Gately, Chiquitita.
Stephen Gately.
R.I.P.
Oh.
Culture Club doing Voulez-Vous. S Club 7 doing Dancing Queen. And The Cause doing The Winner Takes It All.
Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness.
Now, if that wasn't enough, Thank You for the Music appeared on ABBA Mania 2 in 2004. This time sung by the likes of Leanne and Janice Battersby from Coronation Street.
Wow.
Bernie Nolan, she's dropped the other Nolans by this stage, and Will Mellor. And Thank You for the Music was the final ever song video to be played or shown on the Magic TV channel, which closed on Monday, the 1st of July this year, 2024. A couple of quotes about the song. So this is Richard Carpenter of the Carpenters, who he tried to record a cover of Thank You for the Music with his sister Karen. And he says, "Nobody does ABBA like ABBA. I realised that, as usual, Benny and Bjorn had done the definitive arrangement and all I'd been doing was copying, something I just don't do, of course. It's an outtake, never completed, and in storage with the rest of the Carpenter stuff in Pennsylvania." And the author, Gary Holland, says, "This song's got a phenomenal sing-along chorus that feels like an old friend, even the first few times you hear it." So, Thank You for the Music. Alice, over to you. What do you think of it?
Thank You for the Music really speaks to me, actually, because as someone who is passionate about things like gratitude practice, you know, as a coach, as a mindset geek, I love learning about, you know, how using things like gratitude practice can actually really have a massive impact on your mental health and well-being, and the fact that it's kind of woven into this, you know, cultural phenomenon, which is ABBA, really kind of hits home for me. And I think that the way that it's done and the kind of that massive like uplift that you get when you hear "Thank you for the music," you're like, yeah, man, thank you for the music. Oh my God, thank you so much. It does make you feel really thankful for the music. It's amazing.
You've just said the word, which I've got written down in my notes, which is uplifting, the chorus. It's not slow, it's not fast, it's just like, "So I say," and there's like a breath, isn't there? And it's, "Thank you," you know, and it's,
yeah.
And there's something about the release as well. Like someone told me recently that a lot of music is about holding and releasing, and the kind of the constant pattern. And it's like, "So I say, thank you," and it's bang, you know?
Absolutely. And it's the way you're carried along with it. It's like you're really taken on a bit of a ride. And I think that helps with that feeling of gratitude and of kind of truly thank you for the music, because what are we without a song and a dance? And again, that brings me back to, like, you know, that deep gratitude that I have for music being a part of my life, family life.
Yeah. And there's something about music, whether you're sort of listening to it or singing, that really kind of takes you out of yourself and just really, if the word primal is appropriate here, but
Yeah.
you know, and there's reason why people use music as therapy, isn't there? You know, it does wonders for our soul and our psyche.
Absolutely. And it speaks to a part of us as humans that we can't articulate and that we can't write down and that we can't, you know, overanalyze. It's about feeling, and it stops you from overthinking. All of the shit that we do that kind of, confuses and complicates things. But what they did is put it into this package where anyone can listen to it, and that's their genius, isn't it? Is that kind of brings you out of yourself, as you say, and out of your head. Get out of your head, stop over analyzing, and just feel it. Like, feel how great it can be to move and to listen and to let it flood your bones and just be like, yeah, I'm so happy right now because I'm listening to music.
It's interesting that you talk about the package, because I've got this written in my notes as well, about how it's almost like the perfect message delivered in the perfect package, because it's saying thank you for the music, what would we be without music, but it's delivered in this package which kind of is a bit perfect, and it is kind of uplifting, and it's all of those things, and it's all twinkly and lovely, and I'm sort of slightly in awe of its kind of the way it seems simple, but it isn't simple musically, but it does its job.
Praise be for the music.
I even love the start where it just starts with that kind of like dun, like piano note, and it's just there's little sort of, again, twinkly. It's not a proper musical term, but there's sort of simple, gentle notes that just kind of ease you in nicely.
The kind of theatrical element of their music definitely is something that speaks to me as a former performer. The way it takes you on a bit of a journey, and it kind of, the way that they use storytelling and the way that they use that ability to weave the beat and the feeling of it into the actual narrative is, yeah, magic.
I can never be truly objective about this song. I have to admit that now, because it was on the compilation tape of ABBA songs that we had in the car as a kid when I was growing up. So I feel like I've been singing it either to myself or in the car for decades. So even through the kind of the unfashionable 80s, it was always kind of there. It was on that tape. So yeah, so I can't be completely objective about it, but it's not a perfect world, is it?
Yeah. Well, I don't really see you as being objective towards ABBA in general.
If I was, why would I be doing an ABBA podcast?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's okay to just be like, I really love this. Yeah, I go with it. Definitely.
I've also got in my notes, it feels so just effortlessly simple and elemental, which probably goes back to what we were saying earlier about just that thing of subconscious thing of singing and just getting your feelings out, not letting them kind of fog up your brain.
So I think it connects you internally, and then it connects you with the people that you're with. And it's that feeling of, that's what music does, isn't it? It's nothing else really can do this.
So the official video was recorded on either Monday the 17th or Tuesday 18th of April 1978 at the Atlantic nightclub in Stockholm. It was directed by their longtime collaborator Lasse Hallström and features the group singing in front of an audience of children. Now, one of those children, Camilla Darlin, is now in a Swedish ABBA tribute band called The Show, a tribute to ABBA. Alice, we've just watched the video. What did you think of it?
I mean, the outfits are spectacular. I am loving the rabbits. They are so them. And I love that they've brought children into it, and how kind of happy everybody looks, and how pleased they are to be there and, listening to this really sweet and joyful song. It's lovely.
I do wonder about when you see a collection of kids like that, because you do wonder, are they bunking school? What's the conversation? Does a Stockholm school get a phone call saying, "Oh, hi, it's ABBA here. Can we borrow some school children?" Because I don't know if this was in the holidays or what.
The logistics of it. How does this work?
Exactly. Yeah. I think some of them did look a bit bored as well, but we'll move on from that. As I would normally do, I've gone under the video for the comments, the YouTube comments. So Linda Miles 8345 says, "Are we older people so lucky to have lived through this musical era?"
Oh,
thanks, Linda. KQ8449 has replied underneath, says, "Spot on, love, X." Alex Tour 6817 says, "ABBA is the most beautiful thing that's ever happened to humanity."
Well, that is a lofty claim, isn't it? But I mean, this is what they do for their fans.
I mean, I'm an ABBA fan, but is that going a bit too far? Nelly S says, "This song is a love letter to music. They're so grateful that they get to bring so much joy to other people with their music, and we're grateful to them and all the wonderful artists that bless us with beautiful music."
Oh, lovely.
The Lord of YouTube 7675 says, I had Swedish neighbours who played death metal loud. Every time they stopped, I would blast this out.
Amazing.
Bellerophon Challen 8861 says, I'm nothing special. In fact, I'm a bit of a bore. Imagine making the most beautiful woman on the planet sing those lines. Tuita Euro 360 says, this song is so fresh that it's hard to believe that it was created about 40 years ago, and the vocals in particular are beautiful and still touch my heart.
I mean, fresh, is it? I don't know.
I'm not
It's
sure about that
showing
either.
its age personally, but
Tom7645 says, I hated ABBA when they first came out, thinking their music was juvenile Europop meant for kids. It's taken years, but now their music seems timeless. Again, not sure about that. It's always a comforting pleasure when one of these classic songs comes on the radio, like someone handing you a mug of hot cocoa on a chilly morning.
Very comforting.
Underneath that comment, Buzzy Trombone 4353 has said, I was the same because my mum would not shut up about it. And my opinion about it became really salty when they made the first Mamma Mia film with Meryl Streep, since that film was a pile of shit. However, the more I listened to it, I warmed up to it and enjoyed the second film a lot.
Oh, that is hilarious. Well, at least we are comfortable with owning our truth and and also, open to enjoying the second movie, which is lovely.
In summary, then, thank you for the music. Perfect pop or piddling pap?
Oh, perfect pop, for sure.
I mean, as I said, it will always have a very sentimental place in my heart, due to the fact I used to listen to it as a child. But yeah, at this point, I asked my guests to give it marks out of 10. So if I could put you on the spot, I mean, I'm going to go for a 9. I don't care.
Oh yeah, I mean it's got to be up there. It's a classic. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go 9. Do you know I might even go 10? Oh, I know.
I'm not sure we've had a 10 on the podcast before.
Oh God. Well, I'm going to go high because the next two I may have different opinions, but yeah, this one I think it's excellent. I'll go 9.5.
There we go. Perfect. So, I Wonder brackets departure. It is track 8 on ABBA the Album, or side 2, track 3 on the original LP. A live version of this song, so a song from the concert tour, was featured as the B-side of The Name of the Game, released on Monday the 17th of October, 1977. Now, that version was recorded at a concert in Sydney in March 1977. And in the studio afterwards, when they were getting the single ready, they added a piano solo to the recording, but it's not perfect. You can kind of hear there's a bit of a jarring on the recording. And engineer Michael Tretto is quoted as saying this was the only time in ABBA's career that they cut corners. I mean, some say the live version is actually better. If you disregard that kind of piano solo, I think I agree, actually. It's a bit warmer and it's a bit nicer. Obviously, the last one was sung by Agneta. This one's sung by Frida. It was a string arrangement which features the harp, French horn, oboe. Critics and fans have drawn parallels with the singer's situation and Frida's own personal story of leaving her husband and children to pursue singing fame in the 60s, 1969. During the first rehearsals of the concert tour, this song was originally called So Simple, but it evolved into I Wonder as they sort of nailed down the plot of that mini musical. It also features on Benny's solo piano album, 2017, called Piano. A version of this song was filmed and recorded for Mamma Mia 2, Here We Go Again, but it was actually cut from the film, but you can still see it on YouTube and on the DVD and Blu-ray extras. And you can hear it on the soundtrack sung by Lily James. A few quotes about this song. So Carl Magnus Palm, the author, says, a dramatic show-stopping ballad. Freddie Holman says, Frida cultivates just the right level of emotion on this teary number that would comfortably belong in the theatre. By the end of the song, you're rooting for Frida as her character heads off in a new direction. Gary Holland says, at times it's effortlessly Sondheim-esque. And that who the hell am I bit, where you're convinced that Frida is rounding on the less courageous part of herself and giving it a bloody good talking to, really is rather magical. So a bit of a tone shift between Thank You for the Music and I Wonder brackets departure. What do you think of I Wonder?
Okay, so truth be told, Adrian, I had not heard this song ever before. You told me about it. So I had a listen. My immediate thought was this is very musical theatre. And as a trained musical theatre performer, actually, excuse me, at Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, I I normally do love a bit of musical theatre. However, I'm gonna be honest here. This one just doesn't speak to me. I just don't have a kind of emotional reaction to it. I think now you've told me a bit more about it and where it sits, maybe if I knew a bit more, that would mean that I kind of, yeah, got it a bit more. But yeah, this one wasn't for me. I'll be
No,
honest.
there are elements of it I like. There's a bit where they start the chorus, I wonder, and it's really stripped back and it's Frida's voice kind of just sort of standing on its own,
Yeah.
and that's good. And then they bring in the drum. It's well crafted, I think. Frida had kind of a background in jazz and club singing rather than Agneta, so this is a good vehicle for her voice, I think, and that kind of style. But again, it's not a huge one for me, to be honest. Going back to what we're saying about the fact it's like musical theatre, I like the kind of the journey bit of it,
Yes.
and she starts out quite sort of timid, but then by the end of the song, even though the lyrics haven't changed, or the story within the lyrics hasn't changed, her delivery towards the end is like she's gone from A to B kind of thing,
Yes.
which is what musical songs should be, isn't it? They should drive the character, drive the plot. You should end the song in a different place to you started it in. But I'm not sure if it was wholly successful. I mean, the lyrics, my friends, my family, this dull little town, buses I've missed, boys that I've kissed, everything old and familiar. It's, you can kind of almost picture someone, just thinking, oh, there's a big wider world waiting
Mm.
for me, and I'm sort of excited and terrified. And this brings me on to something that I mentioned before we started recording, The Sound of Music. When I was listening to it, I couldn't help but compare it to I Have Confidence.
Yes.
And in the movie, obviously, it starts out, she's just been given this job to go and be governess.
Mm.
And she's like, what will this day be like? I wonder. There we go.
Oh,
But that song, I mean, I think Rodgers and Hammerstein obviously have done a better job, frankly, than this in kind of taking someone who's nervous. I mean, by the end of that song, I Have Confidence, she's like, I
mm.
have confidence in sunshine, I have confidence in rain, bring it on, kind of thing. I was thinking about this yesterday and comparing the two. And so I listened to I Have Confidence, which is one of my absolute favorites from that whole movie. It's actually a minute shorter than this song. So I think, sadly, I mean, it achieves more in less time.
Wow, that I'm really surprised by that actually. I could talk about Sound of Music for a long time. I like really love the Sound of Music. But yeah, and I Have Confidence. Even though I haven't even thought about that song for literally years or watched the movie actually for years and years, I can picture every little bit of it and the way she delivers it and everything. So yeah, interesting that you say that this one was a minute longer. Definitely too long.
I used to listen to I Have Confidence if I had a big day ahead,
Oh, I
like a
love that.
like a job interview or something. I mean, I'm talking like until fairly recently.
That's the sweetest thing. And also really good idea, actually, because it just, again, taps into your body instead of getting all in your head about it.
Yeah. And I was saying to Ian Hallard in the previous episode, there are certain songs which just sort of calm you down but build you up at the same time. I had to do something recently and I was really nervous about it. And Shake It Off by Taylor Swift just came on the radio. And do you know what? I shook it off. It's a little bit like Thank You for the Music. It's like the perfect package of the message and delivered in the package which feeds into the message. So
Yes, love it.
big fan of I Have Confidence. Obviously, people can't see me, but what's behind me in my lounge?
It's a big print of Maria from The Sound of Music with her arms spread out wide on the mountains, singing from the very first scene, I believe, of The Sound of Music, which, what a classic indeed. And I want one in my own house.
We'll play your cards right. You might get one. I mean, we're going slightly deep into The Sound of Music here, but she's doing what we've been talking about, which is losing yourself. She goes up to the mountains to forget all of that stuff in the bloody nuns, and she's going on the mountains where she grew up just to spin around and just goss around and just lose herself in the music.
Absolutely, and in nature, and that's the thing. She's actually teaching us a lot of good lessons here about how to get out of our heads and reconnect with who we are, and yeah, all of that stuff. Brilliant. I love that you've got it on your wall.
Have you shown The Sound of Music to your kids yet?
Do you know what? I haven't. The Sound of Music is actually fairly dark, isn't it?
Oh, yes, you're right. Sorry, I forgot about the Nazis.
I might need to wait till they're just a little bit older, but I but I can't wait to share it with them. But yeah, it does get a little bit dark. But well, you know, it's important historical topics, but yeah, potentially for
Yeah.
the next chapter of their lives.
Sorry, I feel bad about introducing the subject. I genuinely forgot about the whole darkness thing. I was thinking about
Yeah, but you
the
do.
mountains of music.
Yeah, because but that's your overriding feeling, isn't it? When you finish it, it's a very uplifting, beautiful movie, which is amazing considering what they actually weave into the story. But anyway, back to ABBA.
There's no official video for I Wonder, but the audio only video is on the official ABBA YouTube channel. It's had about 420,000 views, more than 3,000 likes. Just diving into the comments. So Ruan SR says, "This is the song that created the concept of goosebumps."
Oh,
I'm not really sure about.
no, yeah, no.
Black Rose 2298 says, "One of my faves. It evokes so many memories, good and bad, and always brings me to tears."
Gosh, you never know. This is what I love about music. You never know what's going to resonate with people, do you? I
Yeah.
literally like, oh, no, but these people really love it.
Well, Elaine Gay 241 says, "I'm a Frida fan and this song validates my choice." And Yetta comes close second, of course. Arik Lamthong says, "She's showing her true colours here. Great stuff." And William US 7NJ says, "First heard this in the late 70s after a divorce, ... still hurts." And that comment's been like 13 times. And I wonder who's liking it. Like, are they liking the fact he still hurts, or the fact it's resonated with him? I don't know.
Oh, the mysteries of the internet.
Honestly, these YouTube comments, honestly, you find some absolute.
Oh, you could get lost in those for
Oh, yes. And I do.
hours and hours of it. I can imagine.
Okay, so summary of I Wonder brackets departure. I'll go first. I don't think it's as good or as powerful or successful as I Have Confidence, but it definitely ticks the same boxes. Frida's voice, I can't really fault that at all. And as I say, it's kind of put together kind of technically well, but for me, it just doesn't really work. What do you think?
Yeah, I would concur. I feel emotionally it just doesn't quite hit the spot. And for me, music is all about what does it make me feel? You know, does it make me feel emotional? Does it make me want to dance? What does it make me feel? And this one didn't really make me feel a lot. So yeah, not the greatest.
No. So I'm gonna give it let's see. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I think it probably would be a 4, but Frida's voice, I'll give it an extra mark for Frida's voice.
Keeps it. Yeah, you know, I'm going to go with a 4. It just doesn't quite do it for me.
Well, talking of things that don't do it for me, we're on to the next song, which is I'm a Marionette.
Yes.
Okay, some song facts. So it's the 9th and final track on ABBA the album. The studio and the album version featured as the B-side on the Take a Chance on Me single, which was released on Saturday, the 14th of January, 1978. The long bass introduction and guitar solo in the middle were added for the studio version, so they weren't in the musical version in the concert tour. It's unusual for an ABBA song because the time signature changes between 4/4 and 3/4 throughout. Wikipedia lists the genres of this song as progressive rock, art rock, and Europop, and it was covered by the Swedish heavy metal band Ghost. Some quotes. So Bjorn says, "The girl was in the big city and had made it, and now she was starting to feel that everyone wanted a piece of her, that events were outside her control. Even though most of the song was fiction, there was still a little bit of truth about our situation." Freddie Holman says, "It's a superbly masterful effort and could easily double as a dramatic soundtrack to a blockbuster film. What a crescendo at the end too, reminding me of the raw emotion of epics like Les Mis. Astounding, 9 out of 10. And Gary Holland says, "That rumbling bass, it's like the sound of distant thunder heading your way. And when the storm finally arrives, it delivers one of the most unsettling listening experiences in the entire ABBA songbook. A cheeky reference to King Kong even reminds us just how far and how fast ABBA have evolved from purveyors of ultra-disposable pop to masters of a much wider, much more challenging musical palette." And that minute-long guitar solo underlines emphatically the fact that compromise really isn't on the agenda. This is grown-up music. Those two people obviously think it's pretty good. I don't. What do you think?
Well, if that's grown-up music, I am not a grown-up because I also do not think it is a good song.
Again, at the risk of repeating myself, I can sort of see what they were trying to do. And, I'm all for kind of, experimenting and everything. But for me, the end result is a bit of a car crash, I'm afraid.
That's exactly how I feel about it, Adrian.
Yeah. Yeah. I just didn't enjoy the ride, basically. It's unmelodic, it's jarring. And for these podcasts, what I tend to do is write out the lyrics before I start writing my notes proper. And when I'm doing that, I'm listening to the song at the same time. And there's the bit about, see my pirouette round and round. And I had a moment where I just thought, actually, my brain is spinning about this.
Yes.
And that's why I say I didn't really enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I put it on in the kitchen this morning with my kids in the room, and all of us were like, "Oh my God, turn it off, turn it off." We're just like, "Just get this off." My daughter was like, "Mummy, please, can you turn this off?" And I did feel the same. I was like, "Yeah, I know. Sorry, I just got to finish listening to it."
One of the quotes that I read out says it delivers one of the most unsettling listening experiences in the entire ABBA songbook, and they seem to think that's a positive. I'm not entirely convinced on that. I mean, if I'm being generous, I think it shows their range, it shows their willingness to experiment, and I suppose, this was their stab at having a go at a musical because they wanted to stretch themselves. Benny and Bjorn wanted to stretch themselves, and if they hadn't have done this, we might not have ended up with Chess in the early 80s, which a world without chess would be a world I don't want to live in. So maybe this is the price we pay.
Well, do you know, absolutely. And I'm with you. I doff my cap to anyone who is willing to experiment, who wants to put themselves out there, who puts it out into the world, even if it's, not the best. We can forgive them because, that's the thing with creativity. You need to go through it to get to the other side. And actually, I love that we can look at a band as successful as ABBA and also see that, yeah, sometimes you have some shit ones to get to the good stuff.
They can't all be gold.
Yeah.
Everyone under the YouTube comments quite likes it, so brace yourself. So again, no official promo video, but the audio only video is on the ABBA YouTube channel. It's had 436,000 views, 4,700 likes. Lord Haw Haw says this is yet another example of how ABBA was able to transcend genres and go from happy-go-lucky pop to melancholy to an eerie deep dive into one's own mind and psyche. These people are artists in capital letters, not merely musicians and singers.
Sure.
Ramon Sabrera 8061 says, step 1, listen to it with headphones. Step 2, consider it was recorded in 1977. And step 3, admit 40 and some years later that it is a masterpiece.
Wow.
Step 4, have a word with yourself. CN206 says, I've always loved this song, from the troubling pulse of the galloping beat to the women's voices, which transform in the chorus from their usual sweetness to something rather more sinister. Creaty Notion Channel 2680 says, definitely influenced by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice. The orchestration sounds like Jesus Christ Superstar. I can hear that a little bit, and it's interesting that they mentioned Tim Rice because he would go on to collaborate with Benny and Bjorn for Chess. And finally, Rit Manto says, those unusual intervals and rhythms just thrill and give me eargasm.
Oh, I don't need to know about your eargasms.
So if anything, we've learned a new word, haven't we? Okay, final thoughts about I'm a Marionette. I still think it's mainly awful, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I don't like it. That's my overriding feeling and thought. Not for me, thank you.
One thing I have mentioned is this is the last song on the album. What a strange way to end the album. But also as well, like the mini musical, it has the 4 songs, which has the 4 stages. They've just missed off the last stage and they've just ended up with the bit where things are spinning out of control and everything. And that's how we leave it. Like, that's the end of the album. Sorry, 70s kids, you have to wait another year for the next installment in this baffling saga.
Is an odd decision, isn't it? Maybe it was their version of like a cliffhanger. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's not a strong finish.
No, it definitely feels like these songs were just sort of tacked on the end. To be fair, they were doing world tours. They were doing all sorts of
They were very
things, you
busy,
know.
probably quite tired. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And there was pressure on them to keep churning these albums out. So, you know, if they think, well, we've done this mini musical during the tour, we may as well just re-record it and put it on the end of the album. But yeah, the whole album of ABBA, the album is a real mixed bag of stuff. Some of it is very successful, like Eagle and Take a Chance on Me. And then as we get towards the end, I think things
Limping over the finish line. Just, let's put this on, and then we've just given up now. Got no energy left.
this is the final time you'll ever have to think about this song, but can I press you for marks out of 10?
Oh, it's low. I'd go for a 3.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
yeah. Not their finest hour, but you know, as we've said, you know, it can't all be gold. I think I know the answer to this question, but which is the favourite of the three we've talked about today?
That will be Thank You for the Music.
Excellent. That's exactly what I think as well.
Definitely, without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, Alice, thank you so much for being on Like a Magic Spell. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thanks for having me. That was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
So there we go. That is the second season, ABBA the album, done and dusted. Do follow the Instagram for news of the third season and which album I will be focusing on next. I suppose the most important question is, which album would you like to see me focus on next? I'll be perfectly honest, I haven't quite made up my mind yet which album I'm going to focus on. So if you've got an opinion, get in touch at Like a Magic Spell on Instagram or likeamagicspell@gmail.com. So do please get in touch and take care of yourselves, and I will see you soon. Like a Magic Spell is presented and produced by me, Adrian Stirrup. The theme was composed and performed by Ian Jones. Ian, thank you for the music.